Good day everyone and welcome to our first tutorial. Today we'll be discussing plagiarism. Throughout this session we will be looking at plagiarism, what it is, when there's one plagiarized, and we'll also look at the different types of plagiarism and how to avoid it. Plagiarism is presenting the words, ideas, images, sounds, or the creative expression of others as your own. The word plagiarism comes from the Latin plagiarius, meaning kidnapping. You only plagiarize if you have included the words or ideas of others in your work that you neglected to cite. There are two types of plagiarism. We have intentional and unintentional plagiarism. Intentional plagiarism is copying a friend's work, buying or borrowing paper of someone else's, cutting and pasting of text from electronic sources without documenting it, and media borrowing without documentation. Unintentional plagiarism is careless paraphrasing, poor documentation, and failure to use your own voice. Plagiarism can involve copying another student's work, copying another person's work from a book or a journal, or copying another person's work from a website, asking another person to do the work for you, downloading the complete text as it is from the internet, buying the text from the internet, or even paying for someone to do the work for you. Plagiarism is a very serious offense and can lead to failing your grade or suspension from school. Is your academic reputation valuable to you? The consequences are not worth the risk. It is only right to give credit to authors whose ideas you use. Citing makes it possible for your readers to locate your sources if they want more information on the topic. And cheating is unethical behavior. We have four different types of plagiarism, which I will be taking you through. The first plagiarism is outright copying, which is well known and the most common copying. This type of plagiarism where you copy someone else's work and just put a name on it. That's basically copy and paste. Then we have patchwork plagiarism. This occurs when the plagiarizer borrows the phrases and clauses from the original source and weaves them into his own writing without putting the phrases in quotation marks or citing the author. The third type of plagiarism is paraphrasing plagiarism. The plagiarizer paraphrases or summarizes another person's work without citing the source. That is copying ideas, copying themes, or copying style of writing. And lastly, the fourth type of plagiarism is stealing an apt term. This occurs when the student lifts or copies a phrase from the original text without referencing it. So, as you can see, there are actually many ways to plagiarize. So it is very important to know how can one avoid plagiarism. Well, firstly is to quote and cite phrases, sentences, and paragraphs taken directly from the original source. Secondly, quote and cite statistics, charts, graphs, and drawings taken directly from the original source. And then when you paraphrase or summarize, do give credit to the original author. The question then you might ask yourself is, do I have to cite everything? The big answer is yes, you have to cite everything. Then you ask yourself, what's the big deal? If I change a few words, I'm still okay, right? Wrong. Paraphrasing original ideas without documenting your source is plagiarism too. Well, here are three strategies that one can use to avoid plagiarism. We have quoting, paraphrasing, and summarizing. Basically, this to help you to source materials in with your own, making sure that your own voice is heard. Quoting is basically the exact words of an author copied directly from a source word for word. But in this case, you must use quotations. Therefore, quotations must be cited. Paraphrasing. Paraphrasing is not simply rearranging or rewording an original passage. Paraphrasing is that you have to understand what the author is saying and write the ideas entirely in your own words. Guys, please don't cut and paste from any source, especially Wikipedia. Secondly, use another or don't use another student's work as your own. Don't change a few words from any source for your paper, or don't turn in a paper you wrote for another class. Well, since we've gone through the concepts of plagiarism, let's look at some examples that we will do together. Here we're going to identify the types of plagiarism in the following text. Here's an example of an outright copy. Let's read in the blue text. You have to tread quite a fine line between being accused, on the one hand, of not making enough use of the writers you have been reading on the course, and on the other, of having followed them too slavishly to the point of plagiarizing them. One of your early tasks as a student is to get a feel for how to strike the right balance. Now here at the bottom, it shows that the student has basically copied each and every word that's said or written in the above paragraph. Second example of plagiarism, still the same paragraph, but then if you look here, you can see that the plagiarizer changed words here and there, such as you must instead of you have to. Instead of careful, they used tread. Quite a fine line, they said being blamed for. So basically what you can see is this student here has changed words here and there. So that is paraphrase plagiarism. And then we have patchwork plagiarism. Basically, patchwork plagiarism is that you take information from different sources and then you cut and paste and patch it in between your paragraphs. As you can see as an example, at one extreme, you may be blamed for not making enough use of the writers you have been reading on the course. Another example is accused of having followed them too slavishly to the point of plagiarizing them. And this can be seen from this sentence here. And lastly is stealing an apt term. Stealing an apt term, we said, is when you steal an author's ideas or theme of style without referencing them. Here's an example of may be accused of having followed them too slavishly. As you can see, it also here. So you guys, it said that it is very important that you should avoid plagiarizing at all costs because you can fail. Plagiarism is a crime. Plagiarism is cheating and it is an unethical behavior. Again, don't cut and paste from any source. Don't use another student's work as your own. Or don't just change a few words from any source for your paper. And don't turn in a paper you wrote for another class. Well, this brings us to the end of our tutorial. I hope that it was helpful and thank you.